In front of 100 guests, they smashed a bottle over my head. I left bleeding and called my attorney. 3 weeks later, I returned with the deed to their home and a calm smile they'll remember forever. I never thought my own brother would smash a champagne bottle over my head for refusing to give him my condo. Blood streamed down my face as I stumbled out of my parents' house, 100 horrified guests watching, paralyzed. My family thought they could bully me into submission, but instead, I walked away with stitches in my skull and a burning, unwavering plan for justice. Narrator speaks directly to camera, friendly but intense. Before I dive into this absolute nightmare, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. Hit that like button if you've ever had to stand up to entitled family members, and subscribe to join our community of survivors. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for how this wild story ends. Transition to more intimate, narrative tone. My name is Hazel Mitchell, and I'm a 34-year-old software engineer. I've built a comfortable life entirely on my own terms. My $660,000 condo in Brookside Heights isn't just a home. It's the physical manifestation of every sacrifice I've made, every obstacle I've overcome. Those marble countertops in the kitchen? They represent 3 years I worked overtime while my friends were out enjoying their 20s. The floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city's skyline? That's what giving up vacations for 5 straight years looks like. Every square inch of that 1,100 square foot space is my independence, something I've fought for since childhood. Growing up in the Mitchell household, I learned early there were different rules for different children. My parents, Gloria and Kenneth Mitchell, never tried to hide their favoritism for my brother, Tyler. He was their golden child, athletic, charming, blessed with our father's charismatic smile. I was the afterthought, the awkward, studious daughter who apparently didn't deserve the same opportunities. Tyler needs these new cleats for football. Hazel, you understand, don't you? Mom would say, as I wore the same worn-out sneakers for another school year. Your brother has so much potential. By 16, I was working part-time at the local grocery store, pulling straight A's. That same year, Tyler crashed his second car, a sweet 16 gift from our parents, and received a third one within a month. Boys will be boys, Dad chuckled, handing Tyler the keys to a newer model than the one he'd totaled. I still remember the kitchen table conversation during my senior year when I brought up college applications. We've set aside money for Tyler's education at State, Mom explained, her voice annoyingly even. He's got a partial athletic scholarship, but we'll cover the rest. What about my college fund? I asked, already knowing the answer before the words even left my mouth. Dad cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze. Hazel, you're smart. You can get scholarships. Besides, the community college has excellent programs. And so I did. I attended community college, working 30 hours a week while taking a full course load. After 2 years of exhaustion and endless ramen noodles, I earned a full scholarship to Westlake University for their computer science program. The day I received my acceptance letter, my parents barely acknowledged it. They were too busy celebrating Tyler's mediocre performance at a local football game. After graduation, I moved into a tiny studio apartment and started my career at a tech startup. I lived on the bare minimum, investing every spare dollar. 6 years of strategic career moves later, I became a senior developer at Nexus Technologies with a salary that finally matched my expertise. Meanwhile, Tyler bounced between jobs, always with a new can't-miss opportunity that inevitably failed. Tyler married Vanessa right after college. They quickly had 2 children, Aiden, now 10, and Sophia, 7. Despite my complicated feelings about my brother, I adored my niece and nephew. I always made sure to be present at their birthdays and school events, even when my brother and sister-in-law made pointed comments about my fancy job and selfish lifestyle. While I was saving for my condo, my parents' financial situation deteriorated. Dad's construction business suffered during the recession, and instead of downsizing, they kept borrowing against their home equity to fund Tyler's series of failed ventures, a sports memorabilia shop, a food truck, and most recently, a revolutionary fitness app that never made it past the concept stage. 3 years ago, I finally had enough for a down payment on my dream condo. The day I signed the papers was the proudest moment of my life. No one from my family attended the housewarming party I threw. Despite having 6 weeks' notice, Tyler suddenly had a networking event that apparently couldn't be missed. The condo itself is everything I ever wanted. 2 bedrooms, one converted to a home office, 2 bathrooms, an open-concept kitchen and living area, and a small balcony where I grow herbs and flowers. The building has a gym, a rooftop pool, and 24-hour security. It's my sanctuary, my achievement, my proof that I didn't need anyone's help to succeed. In the months leading up to Tyler's birthday party, I noticed my family's comments about my living situation becoming more frequent and pointed. "Must be nice to have all that space just for yourself," Mom remarked during a rare visit to my place. "You know, Aiden and Sophia could really use their own rooms," Tyler mentioned over Thanksgiving dinner. "This house is getting cramped with 4 of us." I didn't think much of it then. I should have recognized the red flags for what they were, the early signs of an entitlement that would eventually explode in violence and betrayal. The invitation to Tyler's 40th birthday party arrived in my email inbox on a Tuesday morning in April. "Join us for a milestone celebration," read the subject line, with the details showing a Saturday evening party at my parents' suburban home. My first instinct was to make an excuse, a work emergency, perhaps, or a sudden illness. After years of disappointment, family gatherings had become exercises in smiling through passive-aggressive comments and biting my tongue. But then the text started. "You have to come to Tyler's party," Mom wrote. "It's a special celebration and the whole family will be there." Dad called the next day. "Hazel, your brother would be devastated if you weren't there. We're planning something important." Even Tyler, who rarely contacted me except to ask for tech support, sent a message. "Hey sis, really hope you can make it Saturday. There's something we want to talk to you about." My friend Olivia noticed my distraction when we met for coffee that Thursday. She's been my closest friend since college, and she knows my family history all too well. "They're laying it on thick this time," she commented, stirring her latte. "Any idea what this important thing might be?" I shrugged. "Probably another investment opportunity for Tyler's latest doomed business idea." Olivia's expression turned serious. "Hazel, remember Thanksgiving? Your mom kept making those comments about sharing wealth within the family and how property is just a material thing." I remembered. At the time, I dismissed it as my mother's typical guilt tripping. Now, with the coordinated push for my attendance at this party, I felt a flicker of unease. "Be careful," Olivia warned. "Set your boundaries before you go." Despite my misgivings, I went shopping for Tyler's gift on Friday after work. I selected an expensive watch, not because he deserved it, but because choosing a less expensive gift would inevitably lead to comments about my stinginess, despite my big tech salary. The mental gymnastics required to navigate family interactions was exhausting. Saturday arrived with unseasonable warmth. I chose my outfit carefully, professional, but not flashy. A navy blue dress that wouldn't stand out. The last thing I wanted was to be accused of showing off. I wrapped Tyler's gift in silver paper, added a generic card with a simple, "Happy Birthday," and set off for the 30-minute drive to my parents' suburban neighborhood. Maple Creek Estates hadn't changed much since my childhood. The same well-maintained lawns, the same 2-story houses with 2-car garages, the same sense of comfortable conformity. My parents' colonial-style home at 247 Oakwood Drive stood much as it always had, though the paint was chipping in places and the landscaping had seen better days, subtle signs of their financial strain. The cars lined both sides of the street. Tyler had always been popular, the kind of person who collected friends easily with his outgoing nature. I parked my Audi, another source of family commentary, a block away, and walked slowly toward the house, gift in hand, my stomach already nodding with anxiety. Music and laughter spilled from the open windows as I approached. I paused at the front door, took a deep breath, and rang the doorbell instead of using my old key. I was a visitor now, not a resident. Mom answered, her face lighting up with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hazel, you made it." She pulled me into a hug that felt performative. "Everyone's out back. Tyler will be so happy to see you." As I stepped into the foyer, the familiar sense of my childhood home, Mom's floral perfume, Dad's pipe tobacco, the lemon furniture polish, hit me with unexpected nostalgia. For a brief moment, I wanted to believe this could be a normal family celebration. Dad appeared from the kitchen, drink in hand. There she is. The busy executive finally found time for family. His tone was jovial, but the barb was clear. I forced a smile. Wouldn't miss Tyler's big day. As I moved toward the backyard, I overheard my parents' hushed conversation. She came. Good, Dad murmured. We'll discuss the arrangement after the cake. Are you sure about the timing? Mom whispered back. What if she makes a scene? She won't, Dad replied with certainty. Not with everyone here. Image is too important to her. I pretended not to hear, but my unease deepened. Whatever this arrangement was, I already knew I wouldn't like it. The backyard had been transformed with string lights, tables covered in blue tablecloths, and dozens of helium balloons. About 100 people milled around, extended family, childhood neighbors, Tyler's friends from various phases of his life. A bartender served drinks from a rented bar setup, and catering staff circulated with appetizers. I placed Tyler's gift on the designated table, already piled high with presents, and grabbed a glass of wine from a passing server. Liquid courage seemed necessary for whatever was coming. Hazel, is that you? My Aunt Patricia approached, eyeing me up and down. Still single? You know, my friend's son just moved to the city. He's a lawyer. And so it began. The familiar litany of uncomfortable interactions. That condo of yours must be worth a fortune now, commented my father's friend, George. Smart investment. Your parents are so proud of Tyler, my mother's cousin Ellen informed me, as though I needed reminding of my second-place status. Such a family man, despite his challenges. With each conversation, the knot in my stomach tightened. I checked my watch repeatedly, calculating how soon I could reasonably leave. Then Tyler made his entrance, Vanessa and the kids flanking him like royal attendants. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. My brother, now sporting a designer haircut and expensive clothes that belied his financial situation, beamed and waved like a politician. When he spotted me, he made a beeline in my direction, enveloping me in a bear hug that smelled of too much cologne. You came, he exclaimed, loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. My successful sister made time for little old me. I returned the hug stiffly. Happy birthday, Tyler. He kept his arm around my shoulders as he addressed the people nearby. My sister, the tech genius, making the big bucks while the rest of us struggle along. His laugh was hollow. Maybe some of that success will rub off on me tonight. The comment hung in the air, loaded with implication. I extracted myself from his grip and moved toward the food table, needing distance. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of small talk and deflected questions about my personal life. I was midway through a conversation with my second cousin when Mom tapped my shoulder. Hazel, could you join us in your father's study? Family meeting. The moment had arrived. Whatever this arrangement was, I was about to find out. Dad's study had always been off limits when we were kids, a sanctuary of leather, wood, and the musty smell of old books that were more for show than reading. As I followed Mom down the hallway, away from the noise of the party, I noticed Tyler and Dad already waiting by the study door, their expressions unnaturally composed. Close the door, will you? Dad said as we entered. He settled behind his desk while Mom and Tyler took seats on the leather sofa. The only place left for me was the uncomfortable wooden chair near the bookshelf, a physical manifestation of my outsider status in this family unit. Hazel, Dad began, folding his hands on the desk in what I recognized as his business negotiation pose. We wanted to discuss something important with you as a family. Tyler leaned forward, his birthday boy smile replaced by an earnest expression I didn't trust for a second. Sis, you know things have been tough for us lately. The business climate has been challenging, Dad interjected, as though his poor financial decisions were somehow the economy's fault. And with Tyler's app development costs, we've been thinking about solutions, Mom added, her voice taking on the soothing tone she used when she wanted something from you. About how this family can support each other. I remained silent, waiting for them to get to the point. Dad cleared his throat. We've come up with a plan that makes sense for everyone. Your condo in Brookside Heights. It's just you living there, right? All that space. My stomach dropped. Yes, I managed. And, well, Tyler jumped in. Vanessa and I have been looking at schools in that district. They're much better than what we have here. Aiden and Sophia deserve the best education, you know. The commute is killing me, Dad continued. Being closer to the city would help the business. Mom reached for my hand, which I instinctively pulled away. What we're proposing, dear, is that you sign over your condo to Tyler and his family. They need the space with 2 growing children, and you can easily afford to buy another place. The room fell silent as I processed what they were suggesting. Not asking, but suggesting, as though my compliance was a foregone conclusion. You want me to give Tyler my $660,000 condo? I finally said, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. The property I spent years saving for? Just hand it over. We're family, Tyler said, as if that explained everything. You make more than enough to get another place. Maybe something smaller, more suitable for a single person. This isn't a request out of the blue, Dad added. We've been talking about this for months. It's the right thing to do. The right thing, I repeated slowly. And what do I get in this arrangement? They exchanged glances, clearly not expecting this question. The satisfaction of helping your family? Mom offered weakly. I stood up, steadying myself against the bookshelf. No, absolutely not. That condo is mine. I worked for it. I paid for it. I'm not giving it away. Not to Tyler. Not to anyone. Tyler's face darkened. Always the selfish one, aren't you, Hazel? Some things never change. Selfish. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How am I selfish for not wanting to give away my home? Because family takes care of family. Dad's voice rose. Your brother has children to think about. What do you have? A career? A fancy apartment? What good is success if you don't share it? I've shared plenty, I countered, thinking of the checks I'd written when Tyler's car needed repairs, the expensive birthday gifts for my niece and nephew, the loans to my parents that were never repaid. But my home is not on the table. Mom's expression hardened. After everything we've done for you. A bitter laugh escaped me. What exactly have you done for me? I put myself through college. I built my career without any help. I saved for that down payment while you were bailing out Tyler's failed businesses. There it is. Tyler sneered. Little Miss Perfect thinks she did it all on her own. Newsflash, Hazel, you had advantages I never had. Like what? I demanded. Like your brain. School was always easy for you. Some of us had to work twice as hard. Work. I was incredulous now. When have you ever worked hard at anything, Tyler? Every opportunity was handed to you on a silver platter while I scraped for crumbs. Dad slammed his hand on the desk. That's enough. This isn't about the past. This is about what's best for the family now. And what's best is for me to give up my home. I moved toward the door. This conversation is over. I'm not signing over my condo. Not today. Not ever. Tyler jumped up, blocking my path. You can't just walk away from this. We've already talked to a realtor about listing your place. That stopped me cold. You did what? We thought once we explained, you'd understand, Mom said. Tyler's already enrolled the kids in a new school district for fall. The audacity was breathtaking. They had planned this whole thing without me, assuming I would simply comply with their demands. Move, Tyler, I said quietly. I'm leaving. Running away again, he taunted. That's your solution to everything, isn't it? When things get tough, Hazel disappears. I'm not running, I shot back, my voice barely a whisper but laced with ice. I'm refusing to participate in your delusion that my property is somehow yours to distribute. I pushed past him, heading back toward the party. I needed to get my purse, my keys, then get out of this house. Don't you walk away from me, Tyler shouted, following me down the hallway. We're not finished. Guests turned to stare as we emerged into the main party area, Tyler's voice carrying over the music. 34 years old and still only thinking about yourself, he continued, apparently unconcerned about making a scene at his own birthday party. I spotted my purse on a side table and made my way toward it, ignoring the curious looks from the other guests. Mom grabbed my arm. Hazel, please just think about it. We can discuss details later. I pulled free from her grasp. There's nothing to discuss. The answer is no. After everything this family has given you, Dad said loudly. This is how you repay us? The irony was so rich I almost laughed. Given me? What exactly have you given me that wasn't given tenfold to Tyler? Don't bring me into your victim complex. Tyler spat. Just because you're jealous of my normal life instead of your lonely existence. By now, the party had gone completely quiet. 100 pairs of eyes watched our family drama unfold like some terrible reality show. I'm leaving, I announced, grabbing my purse. Happy birthday, Tyler. Enjoy the watch. As I turned toward the door, Tyler's face contorted with rage. You think you're better than us, don't you? With your fancy job and your fancy condo. I didn't respond, which only seemed to infuriate him more. Answer me, he demanded, grabbing a champagne bottle from a nearby ice bucket. You think you're too good for this family? Tyler. Vanessa cautioned, suddenly appearing at his side. Not here. But he was beyond reasoning. As I reached for the front door handle, I heard the collective gasp before I felt the impact. The sickening crack of glass against my skull, the immediate warm flow of blood, the stunned silence followed by screams. The champagne bottle shattered on impact, sending glass and alcohol mixing with my blood. The pain was immediate and blinding. I stumbled forward, my vision blurring, but somehow managed to open the door and stagger outside. Oh my God, someone gasped, catching me as my knees buckled. Someone call an ambulance. The last thing I remember before losing consciousness was the horrified faces of party guests streaming onto the front lawn and Tyler standing in the doorway, the broken bottleneck still clutched in his hand. His expression a mixture of shock and something else, something that looked disturbingly like satisfaction. The world came back into focus in fragments. The wail of approaching sirens, the metallic taste of blood in my mouth, unfamiliar hands pressing something against my head. I was lying on the front lawn of my parents' house, a growing crowd of party guests forming a circle around me. Their faces swam in and out of focus as I fought to stay conscious. Stay with me, Hazel. The voice belonged to Charlotte Peterson, our parents' neighbor and an ER nurse. Her hands were steady as she applied pressure to my wound. The ambulance is almost here. Try not to move. I tried to speak, but the words came out slurred. My head throbbed with each heartbeat, pain radiating from the point of impact. He hit me, I managed. Tyler hit me with a bottle. I know, honey. Everyone saw. Charlotte's voice was gentle, but her expression was grim. The police are on their way, too. From the corner of my eye, I could see my parents on the porch, their faces pale. Dad had his arm around Mom, who was sobbing into her hands. Tyler was nowhere to be seen. The ambulance arrived with flashing lights and urgent efficiency. The paramedics worked quickly, asking questions I struggled to answer through the fog of pain. Name? Hazel Mitchell. Age? 34. Do you know what happened to you? My brother hit me with a champagne bottle. Do you know what day it is? I had to think about that one. Saturday. Tyler's birthday. Good. We're going to move you onto the stretcher now. As they lifted me, I caught sight of police cars pulling up to the house. 2 officers approached, notebooks already in hand. I'm coming with you, Charlotte announced, climbing into the ambulance beside me. You shouldn't be alone. The ride to Mercy General Hospital passed in a blur of sirens and jostling movement. In the emergency room, doctors confirmed what Charlotte had already suspected, a concussion and a laceration requiring stitches. The CT scan showed no skull fracture, which they assured me was good news, though it didn't feel like it. Not as a doctor numbed my scalp and began the meticulous work of closing the wound. 15 stitches, he announced when he finished. You're lucky. An inch lower and we might be having a very different conversation. Lucky wasn't exactly how I felt, sitting in a hospital gown with blood matting my hair and a pounding headache that pain medication barely touched. Charlotte had stayed the entire time, only stepping out during the actual medical procedures. Your friend Olivia is on her way, she informed me. I found her number in your phone. I hope that's okay. I nodded gratefully, wincing at the movement. The police officers arrived as the doctor was giving me final instructions about concussion monitoring. They introduced themselves as Officers Bennett and Rodriguez, their expressions professional but sympathetic. Miss Mitchell, We'd like to ask you some questions about what happened tonight, if you're feeling up to it, Officer Bennett said. I recounted everything: the family meeting, the demand for my condo, the argument that spilled into the party, and finally, Tyler's attack with the bottle. There were at least 100 witnesses, I concluded. Everyone at the party saw him hit me. Officer Rodriguez nodded. We've already taken statements from several guests. Your brother is in custody. I want to press charges, I said firmly. Assault and battery at minimum. We'll need you to come to the station to make a formal statement once you're released from the hospital, Officer Bennett explained. But yes, based on witness accounts, your brother is facing serious charges. What about my parents? I asked. They were part of the confrontation, too. The officers exchanged glances. Did they physically assault you as well? My mother grabbed my arm to prevent me from leaving, and they were part of the plan to try and take my condo. Officer Rodriguez made notes. We'll include that in the report. Depending on the specifics, there could be additional charges. Olivia arrived as the officers were finishing up, her face tight with worry. Hazel. Oh my God. She rushed to my side, carefully avoiding the foreign monitors. Charlotte called me. I can't believe this happened. The officers gave Olivia their cards before leaving. We'll be in touch, Miss Mitchell. Try to rest and call us when you're ready to come in. After they left, Olivia turned to me, her eyes bright with anger. Your brother did this over the condo discussion? They didn't just discuss it, I told her, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. They had already talked to a realtor. They enrolled the kids in schools near my place. They assumed I would just hand over the keys. That's insane, Olivia said, shaking her head. Completely delusional. Charlotte, who had been quietly arranging my discharge papers, joined the conversation. I've known your family for years, Hazel. But I never imagined Tyler capable of this kind of violence. Neither did I admitted. But looking back, the signs were there. The entitlement, the resentment, the constant comparisons. The doctor returned with discharge instructions and prescriptions. You'll need someone to stay with you for at least 48 hours to monitor for concussion symptoms, he explained. No driving, no screens, no strenuous activity. She's staying with me, Olivia declared. My guest room is all yours, Hazel. And I'll check in on you tomorrow, Charlotte added. Professional courtesy. As Olivia helped me change back into my clothes, now stained with dried blood, I felt a strange sense of clarity despite the throbbing in my head. For years, I had accepted my family's behavior, making excuses, keeping the peace. It took a bottle to the head to finally see the truth. I need to talk to a lawyer, I said as Olivia wheeled me toward the exit. Not just about the assault. About everything. My cousin Rebecca is an attorney, Olivia offered. Family law primarily, but she'll know who to connect you with. Outside, the night air felt cool against my skin. As Olivia helped me into her car, I looked back at the hospital entrance, illuminated by harsh fluorescent light. I'm done, I said quietly. Done making excuses for them. Done accepting scraps of affection. Done being the family ATM. Olivia squeezed my hand. It's about time. In that moment, with my head bandaged and my heart hardened, I made a decision. This wasn't just about the assault. This was about 34 years of systematic emotional abuse, favoritism, and entitlement. And for once in my life, I was going to fight back. The following days passed in a haze of pain medication, interrupted sleep, and slowly dawning realizations. Olivia's guest room became my sanctuary as I recovered from both the physical trauma and the emotional aftermath of Tyler's attack. True to her word, she stayed with me, monitoring my concussion symptoms and fielding the barrage of calls and texts that started arriving from family members. Your mother called again, Olivia reported on the third morning, bringing me tea and toast. That's the 5th time since yesterday. What did she say? I asked carefully, sitting up in bed. The room no longer spun when I moved, which I considered progress. The same as before. That Tyler is devastated about what happened, that he wasn't himself, that they want to work things out as a family. Olivia's tone made it clear what she thought of these platitudes. And my father? No direct calls from him, but your mom mentioned he's heartbroken about the misunderstanding. I laughed humorlessly. Misunderstanding. That's one way to describe a premeditated attempt to steal my home, followed by assault with a deadly weapon. My phone chimed with another text. Olivia checked it for me, following doctor's orders to limit my screen time. It's your Aunt Patricia, she reported. She says, and I quote, family should forgive family. Tyler made a mistake, but he's suffering too. Block her, I said wearily. Block all of them for now. Later that afternoon, Olivia's cousin Rebecca Wilson arrived, briefcase in hand and determination in her stride. At 42, Rebecca had the polished confidence of someone used to winning arguments for a living. Assault and battery is just the beginning, she declared after I'd recounted the entire story. There's attempted coercion, harassment, potentially even conspiracy, depending on how long they've been planning this. What do you recommend? I asked. First, a restraining order against Tyler, minimum, possibly against your parents too if they continue the harassment. Second, we pursue maximum criminal charges for the assault. Third, we look into civil damages. Rebecca tapped her pen against her legal pad. But there's something else I want to check. You mentioned your parents' house. Do you know whose names are on the deed? The question caught me off guard. My parents, I assume. Why? Rebecca's expression turned thoughtful. Just covering all bases. Can I ask you to sign some forms allowing me to do some preliminary research? After Rebecca left, promising to return with more information soon, Charlotte stopped by to check my wound and change the dressing. The stitches are looking good, she assured me. No signs of infection. How's the pain? Manageable, I replied. The headaches are less frequent. Charlotte hesitated before speaking again. Hazel, there's something you should know. I didn't want to add to your stress earlier, but given that you're pursuing legal action. She took a deep breath. The night of the party, after you were taken to the hospital, I overheard Tyler and your parents talking. They were arguing about what happened, but not in the way you might expect. What do you mean? Your father was angry at Tyler, but not for hurting you. He was angry because Tyler screwed up the plan by being too aggressive. Your mother kept saying they needed to regroup and try another approach. It sounded like the assault wasn't the plan, but getting your condo definitely was. The information settled heavily in my chest. Thank you for telling me. That actually helps my case. Midway subscribe line. By the way, if you're still with me on this unbelievable journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss the next chapter of this story or the powerful content coming soon. 2 days later, Rebecca returned with a thick folder and a surprisingly satisfied expression. I have some very interesting information, she announced, spreading documents on Olivia's dining table. First, about your parents' house. I pulled the property records and guess whose name is on the deed alongside Kenneth and Gloria Mitchell. My stomach dropped. No. Yes, yours. Do you remember signing paperwork about 5 years ago? A vague memory surfaced. Dad calling me about refinancing the house, needing my signature on some forms because the bank required additional security. I had signed without reading carefully, trusting my parents when they said it was just a formality. They added me to the deed because they couldn't qualify for refinancing on their own. I realized my credit score and income are what got them approved. Rebecca nodded. Exactly. Which means you're not just a co-signer on the loan, you're a legal co-owner of the property. 1/3 ownership to be precise. The implications began to dawn on me. So, if they've taken out additional loans against the house, they would have needed your signature, legally speaking. If they forged that or proceeded without your knowledge, that's fraud. Rebecca pulled out another document. Which brings me to my second discovery. I had my paralegal do some digging into recent financial activities connected to your parents and brother. Look at this. She handed me a printout of what appeared to be a business registration. Mitchell Innovation Labs LLC, I read aloud. Registered to, wait, this is my address. Your condo address, Rebecca confirmed, filed 3 months ago, with Tyler Mitchell listed as CEO and your parents as board members. They registered a business at your address without your knowledge or permission. My hands shook as I processed this information. They were planning to take my condo for months. The birthday party confrontation wasn't spontaneous. It was the culmination of a long-term strategy. Rebecca nodded grimly. It gets worse. We pulled Tyler's credit report as part of the case preparation. He's been telling creditors he lives at your address. There are utilities, credit cards, even a car loan using your condo as his residence. The betrayal cut deep, but with it came a strange sense of validation. I hadn't imagined their entitlement. It was real, documented, and apparently limitless. What does all this mean for my case? I asked. It means we have a lot more leverage than I initially thought, Rebecca explained. The assault is serious enough, but this pattern of financial deception adds significant weight. And as for the house, she tapped the deed document. As a co-owner, you have rights, including the right to force a sale if the other owners are engaging in fraud or misconduct. The room fell silent as I considered the implications. You're saying I could sell their house? The one they've lived in for 30 years. Legally, yes. It would require court approval, but given the circumstances, their attempt to take your property, followed by assault when you refused, plus the financial fraud, we have a strong case. It seemed almost too perfect. A karmic reversal I hadn't dared imagine. I need to think about this. Of course, Rebecca agreed. It's a significant step, but I wanted you to know all your options. As Rebecca packed up her documents, my phone rang. Despite the blocking, some calls were still getting through. This one from an unknown number. Should I answer it? Olivia asked. Put it on speaker, I decided. The voice that came through was my father's. His tone uncharacteristically subdued. Hazel, are you there? We need to talk about what happened. I have nothing to say to you, I replied coldly. My attorney will handle all communication from now on. Attorney, Hazel, this is family business. We don't need lawyers involved. Family business stopped being an option when Tyler smashed a bottle against my head. There was a pause before he continued. That was unfortunate. Tyler lost his temper, but he's getting help now. Anger management classes. He's truly sorry. Is that why he's been using my address for his business and personal finances for months? Because he's sorry. Another pause. Longer this time. How did you know about that? I know everything, Dad. About Mitchell Innovation Labs, about the loans, about all of it. Now, Hazel, those were just preliminary steps. We were going to bring you in as a partner, eventually. It was going to be a family business. The audacity was breathtaking. Stop lying. You've been planning to take my condo for months. You just didn't expect me to say no. We're your family, he insisted, his voice hardening. Everything we've done has been for this family. Your success should benefit all of us. My success, I felt my own anger rising. My success that you had no part in, that you actively undermined at every opportunity? That's success. Don't be dramatic. We supported you when you refused to help with college, when you criticized my career choices, when you borrowed money you never repaid. When exactly did you support me? This conversation isn't productive, he snapped. We'll talk when you're being more reasonable. No, we won't. Any further communication goes through my attorney. And Dad, you might want to get a lawyer yourself. You're going to need one. I ended the call, my heart pounding, but my resolve strengthening. Rebecca gave me an approving nod. You handled that perfectly, she said. And it's more evidence of their continuing harassment and manipulation. As she left, promising to file the restraining order paperwork immediately, I turned to Olivia. I think I've made my decision about the house. Are you sure? She asked. It's a big step. I nodded, the last pieces of my lifelong need for family approval finally falling away. They were willing to take everything from me without a second thought. It's time they learned that actions have consequences. The depth of my family's financial deception became clearer in the days that followed. Rebecca connected me with Marcus Johnson, a forensic accountant specializing in cases involving family financial fraud. What he uncovered left even Rebecca, who thought she'd seen everything in her years of practice, visibly shocked. They've been planning this for well over a year, Marcus explained, spreading spreadsheets across Olivia's dining table, which had become our unofficial command center. The first traces appear 14 months ago when your parents refinanced their mortgage again using your credit, but forging your signature on the documents. I never authorized that, I confirmed, examining the signature that was a poor imitation of my own. Then, approximately 12 months ago, they created a shell company, Mitchell Family Holdings, with you listed as a silent partner. Marcus pointed to another document. Again, forged signature. That's 2 counts of forgery plus fraud, Rebecca made notes. It gets worse, Marcus continued. 9 months ago, they began listing your condo address as the primary residence for both Tyler and your parents on various financial applications. 7 months ago, they registered the business using your address. And 3 months ago, they started the process of enrolling the children in schools in your district. All of this confirms premeditation, Rebecca noted. This wasn't a spontaneous request at a birthday party. This was a calculated, long-term plan to essentially steal your property. I stared at the mountain of evidence, a strange numbness replacing my initial shock. Did they really think they'd get away with this? Marcus adjusted his glasses. Based on the documents, yes. There are emails between your brother and parents discussing how to convince Hazel, or, failing that, how to leverage her guilt about family obligations. They seem to believe you would eventually capitulate to family pressure. And if I didn't? I asked. Marcus and Rebecca exchanged glances. There are some concerning messages about alternative approaches if you proved difficult, Marcus admitted. Nothing explicitly threatening violence, but the implication that they would escalate tactics is clear. The following day, Detective Sophia Carter from the Financial Crimes Unit came to review Marcus's findings. She brought additional evidence gathered during the police investigation of the assault. We obtained a warrant to search your brother's phone and computer based on the assault charges, she explained. What we found corroborates everything your forensic accountant discovered, plus some additional concerning elements. She opened her laptop to show a series of text messages between Tyler and my father from 2 weeks before the party. Tyler, what if she still says no after the party? Dad, she won't. Your mother, and I will make it clear this isn't a request. Tyler, but if she does? Dad, then we move to Plan B. She's on the deed to our house. We have leverage. What did they mean by leverage? I asked. Detective Carter sighed. Based on other messages, they were planning to claim you had verbally agreed to sign over your condo in exchange for removing your name from their house deed. They were essentially going to claim a verbal contract that never existed. Rebecca looked outraged. That would never hold up in court. They probably knew that, Detective Carter agreed. But they were counting on family pressure and your desire to avoid lengthy legal proceedings to force your compliance. I shook my head, still struggling to comprehend the extent of their scheming. They really thought they had it all figured out. People who engage in this kind of familial financial abuse often believe their actions are justified, Detective Carter explained. They convince themselves that family resources should be communal, especially when one member is more successful than others. Our meeting was interrupted by an urgent call from the security desk at my condo building. Miss Mitchell, this is Carlos from security. There's a situation you should be aware of. A man and woman claiming to be your parents attempted to gain access to your unit. When we refused, they became agitated, claiming they had a right to enter because, and I'm quoting here, the property will soon be transferred to their son. My blood ran cold. Did they leave? Only after we threatened to call the police. But before they left, the man said something about changing the locks being their right as future owners. I thanked Carlos for his vigilance and immediately relayed the information to Detective Carter, who promised to send officers to interview the security staff and review surveillance footage. This is a clear violation of the restraining order, Rebecca noted, and further evidence of their intent to take your property by any means necessary. Later that evening, a neighbor from my condo building sent security footage showing Tyler and my father attempting to pick the lock on my door, carrying what appeared to be new doorknobs and locks. The timestamp showed they had returned after being turned away by security, apparently thinking they could access the building through the parking garage. This is beyond delusional, Olivia commented as we watched the footage. They're acting like they already own your place. In their minds, they do, I replied. They've convinced themselves they're entitled to it. The next day, Rebecca confirmed what I had been suspecting. As a co-owner of my parents' house, I had the legal right to force its sale, especially given the documented fraud and the ongoing harassment. The court will almost certainly approve a petition for sale, she explained. Given the circumstances, including the assault and the multiple instances of fraud, you have a very strong case. And the proceeds? I asked. Would be divided according to ownership percentage after settling any liens or outstanding mortgages. Your share would be 1/3. I sat with this information, turning it over in my mind. The house that had been the site of so much favoritism and unfairness could become the instrument of justice. There was a certain poetry to it. If I decide to do this, I said slowly, how quickly could it happen? Given the urgency, due to the ongoing harassment and criminal case, we could expedite the process. 3 weeks, maybe less. Rebecca studied my face. Are you sure this is what you want? I thought about my childhood in that house, always feeling like a guest in my own home. I thought about the blood still matted in my hair from my brother's assault. I thought about the years of manipulation, the constant expectation that I should give and give while receiving nothing in return. Yes, I said firmly. It's time they learned that actions have consequences. The emotional weight of my decision led me to seek therapy. Dr. Elizabeth Foster specialized in family trauma and financial abuse, and our sessions became a crucial outlet as I navigated the legal proceedings. What you're experiencing is a profound betrayal, Dr. Foster explained during our second session. Not just the assault, but the years of conditional love and exploitation. I keep asking myself if I'm doing the right thing, I admitted. Selling their house seems so harsh. Let me ask you this, Dr. Foster replied. If a stranger had assaulted you and tried to steal your property, would you hesitate to seek justice? No, of course not. The fact that their family doesn't lessen the crime. If anything, it makes the betrayal worse. She leaned forward. Hazel, setting boundaries isn't punishment, it's self-protection. A week into the legal proceedings, I received a letter from my parents' newly hired attorney demanding that I pay for Tyler's emotional distress resulting from his arrest and the damage to his reputation caused by the assault charges. The letter claimed that I had provoked the assault by selfishly refusing to help family in need and demanded that I drop all charges and proceed with the agreed-upon property transfer. It was the final push I needed. I contacted Rebecca immediately. Move forward with the house sale. Full speed ahead. Within days, we had listed the property with Samantha Reynolds, a real estate agent who specialized in quick sales. Given the house's location in a desirable suburb, interest was immediate. Within a week, we had multiple offers. The highest coming from developer Benjamin Harris, who planned to demolish the existing structure and build 2 modern homes on the lot. It's an all-cash offer, $50,000 above asking price, with a 2-week closing timeline, Samantha explained. They're willing to handle all the eviction proceedings as part of the deal. I shook my head. No need. I'll handle the eviction personally. The court hearing for the petition for sale was scheduled for exactly 3 weeks after Tyler's assault. My parents and their attorney argued vehemently against the sale, claiming family property should be protected from vindictive actions. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, was unimpressed. The evidence of fraud is substantial, she noted. And the violent assault, for which the defendant has already been indicted by a grand jury, adds a concerning dimension of danger. The petition for sale is approved. As I left the courthouse, legal victory in hand, I made 2 decisions that would surprise my family. First, I instructed Rebecca to establish college funds for Aiden and Sophia with a portion of my proceeds from the house sale. Whatever my feelings about their parents, my niece and nephew were innocent children who deserved educational opportunities. Second, I anonymously donated a significant amount to a local domestic violence shelter, wanting something positive to come from this painful chapter. Are you ready for what comes next? Olivia asked as we drove home from the courthouse. I touched the healing wound on my scalp, a permanent reminder of my family's true nature. More than ready. Exactly 3 weeks and 2 days after Tyler shattered a champagne bottle against my skull, I pulled up to 247 Oakwood Drive for what I knew would be the last time. Behind me was a small convoy, a sheriff's deputy in an official vehicle, Rebecca in her sleek sedan, and a moving truck with 2 burly men waiting for instructions. The morning was bright and clear, a beautiful spring day that seemed at odds with the grim task ahead. I had chosen this particular morning deliberately, a Saturday, when I knew my parents, friends, and neighbors would be home, potential witnesses to whatever unfolded. Are you sure you want to do this personally? Rebecca asked as we stood on the sidewalk. I could handle it for you. I shook my head. No, I need to do this myself. They need to understand that their actions have consequences. The sheriff's deputy, a woman named Officer Martinez, with kind eyes and a firm demeanor, reviewed the court order once more. Everything's in order, Miss Mitchell. I'll accompany you to serve the eviction notice and deed transfer papers. The residents have 48 hours to vacate the premises. I took a deep breath and walked up the familiar path to the front door, flanked by Rebecca and Officer Martinez. The doorbell chimed the same melody it had since my childhood. For a moment, muscle memory almost made me reach for my old house key, before I remembered why I was here. The door swung open to reveal my father, Saturday casual in khakis and a polo shirt, his expression shifting from routine annoyance to shock as he registered who stood before him. Hazel, what is this? His eyes darted to Officer Martinez in her uniform, then to Rebecca with her briefcase, and finally to the moving truck idling at the curb. Kenneth Mitchell? Officer Martinez asked formally. I'm here to serve you with an eviction notice and property transfer documents by order of the county court. This property has been sold in a partition action. Sold? My father's face drained of color. That's impossible. This is our home. It was your home. I corrected him, my voice steady, until you decided to forge my signature on refinancing documents, commit multiple counts of fraud using my name, and then assault me when I wouldn't give you my condo. Gloria, he shouted over his shoulder. Get out here now. My mother appeared in the hallway, still in her bathrobe despite the late morning hour. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Hazel, what's happening? She's saying the house has been sold, my father spat. Some nonsense about court orders. Officer Martinez held out the official documents. Ma'am, sir, these papers explain everything. As a co-owner of this property, Miss Mitchell had the legal right to petition for a partition sale, which the court granted based on evidence of fraud and criminal activity. My mother's hand flew to her throat. This can't be legal. We've lived here for 30 years. It's perfectly legal, Rebecca interjected. The documentation is all here. The new owner takes possession immediately, though you have 48 hours to remove your personal belongings. Movement behind my parents caught my eye. Tyler appeared, apparently having been staying with them since his release on bail, his face contorted with rage when he saw me. You, he snarled, lunging forward, only to be blocked by my father. Not now, Tyler. My father hissed. There's a cop right there. Officer Martinez's hand moved instinctively to her weapon. Sir, I need you to step back. You're currently in violation of a restraining order by being in Miss Mitchell's presence. This is my parents' house. Tyler protested. Not anymore, I said calmly. And technically, it was always partially mine. A fact you all exploited when it benefited you and conveniently forgot when it didn't. By now, neighbors had begun to notice the commotion. Charlotte stood on her front lawn, arms crossed, watching the scene unfold. Other familiar faces appeared in windows and doorways, curiosity drawing them to witness my family's public downfall. You can't do this to us, my mother pleaded, tears streaming down her face. Where will we go? You should have thought about that before you tried to steal my condo, I replied, surprised by my own steadiness. Before you forged my signature on legal documents, before Tyler decided that violence was an acceptable response to hearing no for once in his life. Officer Martinez handed the paperwork to my father, who took it with trembling hands. You have 48 hours to vacate. The movers here can help with your belongings if you wish. Is this what you want? My father asked me, his voice hollow. To make your family homeless? No, I corrected him. This is what you created when you decided that my property was yours to take, that my boundaries didn't matter, that my success was something you were entitled to simply because we shared DNA. Tyler, unable to contain himself any longer, spat at my feet. Always the victim, aren't you, Hazel? Poor little girl, who had to work for things instead of having them handed to her. Officer Martinez stepped between us. Sir, one more outburst, and I'll arrest you for violating the restraining order. Go ahead, he challenged. Add it to the list. My life is already ruined thanks to her. Your life is the result of your own choices, I replied. Just as mine is. As if on cue, more vehicles pulled up to the house. Tyler's wife, Vanessa, with the children, apparently arriving for a weekend visit, and several of my parents' friends who must have been alerted to the situation by frantic phone calls or texts. Vanessa's face paled as she took in the scene, the moving truck, the sheriff's deputy, the legal papers in my father's hand. What's happening? Your sister-in-law has sold our house out from under us, my father announced loudly for the benefit of the growing audience. She's throwing her own parents onto the street. I turned to address not just my family, but the assembled neighbors and friends. What he's not telling you is that they forged my signature on legal documents, registered businesses using my address without permission, and tried to coerce me into giving them my condo. When I refused, Tyler assaulted me with a champagne bottle in front of 100 witnesses, sending me to the hospital with a concussion and 15 stitches. A murmur ran through the crowd. Many of them had been at the party, had seen the assault with their own eyes, but hadn't known the full context. That's not how it happened. Tyler protested weakly. There are court records, Rebecca added. Financial documents, police reports, witness statements. The facts are clear. My mother, seeing that public sympathy was not swinging their way, changed tactics. Hazel, please, she begged. We're still your family. Whatever mistakes we've made, surely we can work this out. I have arranged for a 2-bedroom apartment for you and Dad, I informed her. My final act of familial obligation. It's paid through the end of the year. The address is in the paperwork. It's not what you're used to, but it's clean and safe. My father looked stunned. You're still helping us after all this? I'm ensuring you're not homeless, I clarified. Not out of obligation, but because I refuse to be the person you tried to make me, someone who puts self-interest above basic human decency. Tyler scoffed. What about us? Where are Vanessa and the kids supposed to go? That's not my responsibility, I said. But if you're asking about your children's future, you should know I've established college funds for both of them with part of my proceeds from this sale. Unlike some people, I don't punish children for their parents' mistakes. Vanessa's expression softened slightly at this news, though Tyler looked more outraged than grateful. You have 48 hours, I repeated, turning to leave. I suggest you start packing. As I walked back toward my car, my father called after me. Is this really how you want to end things? 34 years of family just over. I paused and turned back one last time. This family ended the moment Tyler decided violence was an acceptable response to not getting his way. This family ended when you and Mom decided my property was yours to take. This family ended when all of you confused love with ownership. I got into my car and drove away, watching the house recede in my rearview mirror. The weight that had pressed on my chest for weeks, for years really, began to lift. For the first time since the assault, I took a full, deep breath. 6 months later, I stood in front of a classroom of young women at the Women's Financial Empowerment Center, where I volunteered teaching a course on financial independence. My scar had faded to a thin white line, partially hidden by my hair. But the lessons from that painful chapter remained vivid. Boundaries aren't just emotional, I explained to the attentive faces before me. They're financial, too. No one, not a partner, not a friend, not even family, has the right to your resources without your consent. After class, I met Olivia and our new friend Diana for dinner. Diana was a graphic designer I'd met through the center, and over the past few months, she'd become an important part of my rebuilt social circle. How did it go today? Olivia asked as we settled into our table. Really well, I replied. It's healing, honestly. Turning that experience into something that might help others. Have you heard anything from them? Diana asked carefully, aware of my family history. My parents send occasional emails, formal, distant. They're managing in the apartment, though Dad had to come out of retirement to cover expenses. Tyler's case is still moving through the courts. His lawyer keeps trying to delay. And how are you feeling about all of it? Olivia asked. I considered the question, something Dr. Foster asked me regularly in our continuing therapy sessions. I still have moments of doubt, moments where I wonder if I did the right thing. But then I remember that I didn't create this situation. I just refused to be its victim. Diana raised her glass. To boundaries, consequences, and new beginnings. As we clinked glasses, I felt the last pieces of guilt finally release their hold. Family should be about mutual support, not exploitation. Love should lift you up, not tear you down. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from those who should have protected us most. But from those lessons can come strength, clarity, and, ultimately, freedom. I had lost the family I was born into. But in its place, I was building something far more valuable, relationships based on respect, boundaries, and genuine care. My story wasn't over. It was just beginning on my own terms. Ending CTA *, what about you? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members or cut ties with toxic relatives? Share your experiences in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found my story helpful, subscribe for more content about family dynamics and personal growth, and share with anyone who might be struggling with similar situations. Remember, sometimes the healthiest family is the one you create for yourself. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength on your own journey to healthy relationships.